Okay, so welcome to返學 DSE for the biology chapter 28. So in this chapter, we're talking about the biodiversity. So why there is such diversity? Because as the organisms adapt to their habitats, the organisms have to develop different forms of their body structures in order to carry out the specific functions. That's why, because of the adaptation, they will have some changes. And here is the classifications from the kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus to species. And to me, I will remember their first characters, that is PC, OMG. So it may help you because there is PC and then OFG. And then the biggest one will be the kingdom. And then the smallest one will be the species. And then how the species can be defined is that the organism potentially are capable in interbreeding and produce a fertile offspring, which means that the offspring can produce more offspring. And why is a naming is essential? Because as shown in here is known as the 紅耳鵯 or known as the 焦頭雀. This is the common name of this bird. However, for different regions of the world and different people, they may call it differently. That's why we have a scientific name. So whenever I use this particular name, it means this species. And the genus is this word, and for the species name is this word. So it's a combination of the genus name and also the species name. And here is a phylogenetic diagram, which means how they are similar. So here is a common ancestor, and then at some point, because of some reason, they become diverged. So the one group that in here shown that in blue color, they are more closely related, while the one shown that in red color, they are also closely related, and the one in brown color, they are closely related. So in the phylogenetic tree, we all have a common ancestor, and then there's a group of bacteria, another one is the anchor, another one is the eukarya. And there are a total of 6 kingdoms. For the bacteria is one group, and then another one is the Archaebacteria, this is another group. And for the protista and also the Plantae, they are more closely to each other. And for the fungus and human and animals, they are more closely to each other. However, for these 4, we are relatively close to each other because we are all eukarya. And in the kingdom of eukaryotes, they are all unicellular prokaryotes with no true nucleus. It is a definition you learned in chapter 2 and 3, and their DNA are lying freely in their cytoplasm, and they also do not have a cell membrane, bounded organelle, and their cell wall is made of peptidoglycan, not the cellulose as the plant. And for the Archaebacteria, they are also unicellular prokaryotes, and they also have a cell wall. However, their cell wall is also different from that of the eubacteria. It is mainly of lipid, and they mainly live in the extreme environment, like the hot spring and also Dead Sea. And in the kingdom of Protista, they are usually called the protists, and they are unicellular and yet eukaryotes, and which means that they have true nucleus and also membrane-bounded organelles, and they are subdivided into 3 groups. There is the protozoans, algae, and others the slime. And then here comes the fungus. Most of them are multicellular, which means that some of them are unicellular, and they also have cell wall, but they are not made up of the cellulose, and they do not have chlorophyll, which means that they cannot carry out photosynthesis. And there is a large variation within this kingdom because from saprophytic to parasitic and also to yeast, it is unicellular. And for the kingdom of Plantae, they are all autotrophs, as you have learned it in chapter 10, and they contain the chlorophyll, which means that they can undergo photosynthesis. And they have cell wall, which composed of the cellulose, and they are subdivided into 2 groups. One is called the non-muscular plant, which is much smaller, and they are moles. And then there are vascular plants, which means they have the vascular bundle, that is the xylem and the phylum. And they are subdivided into 3 groups, that is the ferns, conifers, and also flowering plants. And for the plants, which is the most common group, it is further divided into monoclots and also diclots. How they are different? First, we have to talk about their number of cotyledons, that is the cot. For the monocot, it only has 1 cotyledons, and for the dicot, it has 2 cotyledons. And for the leaf bearings, for the dicot, it is a network, while for the monocotyledon, it is a parallel lines. And for the Amida, there are mainly 2 groups. One is called the Invertebrate, and another one is called the Vertebrate, which is the human, that is the Cotyledon. And then the one without the invertebrate, that actually contributes most of the animals in this world because it contains insects. And for the invertebrates, it contains like 3 of them. There is the hollow body animals, segmented one, soft body one like the snails, and also the jointed leg, that is the insecta. And here is the final name, but these final names are no longer required in your DSE, so you just know that there are different types of invertebrate, and then you are just fine. And for the jointed leg, there is the insecta. There is from the phylum to the subphylum and then to the class. So you may notice that for the insecta is actually a term for the class. And if you would like to know more about insecta, especially about ants, there is a episode in the ViuTV called the 香港秘密搜查官 Case 07. It's talking about the study of ants in Hong Kong. If you are interested in it, please go for it. And there are also spiny-skinned animals. There's like the 海膽. And then for the vertebrate, we will talk about fish, amphibians, reptiles, birds, and mammals. And for all these 5, we have to understand a distinguished characters. For fish, that is, it has gills and furs, and mostly they will undergo external fertilization, but not for sharks. So remember, most, which means not all. And they are also known as the cold-blooded animals. However, cold-blooded is not a technical term. Usually we will use this one. However, no one will ever understand this term anymore, so you may just leave it there. And then for the amphibian, mostly will be with the most naked skin, and most of them will have 4 limbs, which means some of them do not have it, and it also is a cold-blooded animal. And the most famous example will be fox and all those salamanders. And for the reptiles, the skins are covered with dry and hard scales, and most of them have 4 limbs. However, for the snakes, it doesn't have any limbs, so be careful. And they are all cold-blooded animals, so the most famous one will be the snakes. And then here comes birds. So here is a bird, that's the penguins, and they all have beak and also the feathers, and this is their distinguished features. And they are warm-blooded animals, which means that they will have a stable body temperature throughout their life. And here is a great example, that is the penguins. And remember, not all the birds can fly, because penguin is a bird that cannot fly. And here comes the mammals. So why we are called the mammals, like the cats? Because we have the mammalian glands, and also our body is covered with hair, which is shown in here. And we use lung, and also we carry out the internal fertilization, and we also are warm-blooded. And the best example would be human and cats. And remember, not all the mammals cannot fly, because there is a famous example called the bats. 蝙蝠, they can fly. And in order to distinguish different animals, we use the taxonomy key. So how a taxonomy can be constructed? It is to provide 2 alternative features, like whether you have hair or you doesn't have hair, or you have feathers or doesn't have feathers. So in your textbook, there are more concrete examples. But remember, whenever you are trying to use a taxonomy key, you are using a features to distinguish it into 2 subgroups. So finally, why do we need to understand about biodiversity? Because you are at the end of the whole curriculum, and after all the studies, you have to understand that in biology, we like diversity. That is, we have to love the world, and also we have to cherish that there are different diversities. So I hope this chapter will help you to know more and also to love more about our world. So here is an extract of the HKEA document. So we need to know more about the phylogenetics relationship between organisms, and also to identify them, and I construct the taxonomy and able to distinguish the 6 kingdoms and their terms and 3 domains. So here will be the end of the chapter 28 intensive videos. I hope you guys enjoy it, and we will see you next time. Bye.